Ladies, gentlemen, and all you mindless zombie drones, welcome. As always, I am Cosmic, and today we're going to be reviewing Playdead's latest puzzle platformer, Inside. Playdead, of course, are famous for the critically acclaimed Limbo, and Inside follows in a similar fashion to Limbo's style, once again having a young boy as the main protagonist and having a similar monochromatic landscape. Inside has been anticipated for quite some time and takes a break from Limbo's 2D style to employ a 2.5D style game. This means that not only are interactable objects in the environment, but the backdrop of the game itself is interactable in the sense that things will react to your presence. A really great example of this is if enemies are patrolling in the background and they can literally just turn and spot you and then come and try and grab you from the backdrop. And that in itself is something that is a lot of fun. It makes the game really tense and adds a great amount of atmosphere. Something that I really loved about the game is that when you first get into the game, there is no tutorial. There's nothing that tells you what buttons to press to do certain things. You have to experiment and find out what the controls are by yourself. That coupled with the puzzle system. Now the puzzles are much improved from that of, say, Limbo. They are more complex in certain areas. There's a good mix of easy puzzles and more complex puzzles, and some puzzles have different stages to them, so you have to do several things at once. But it's a lot of fun, and the puzzles don't really handhold you either, in the sense that they don't tell you what to do. There are some clues laying around in possibly the design of the level. There may be some things that you can see where you're supposed to put certain things, but other than that, there's nothing that really leads you and guides you the way through. It's kind of figuring it out by yourself. The gameplay mechanics from themselves aren't that too dissimilar from Limbo. It's a puzzle platformer. You have to get from point A to point B via various obstacles. The interactivity of the background environment does add a certain depth, and it does mean that you have to be more aware of what's going on in your surroundings to make sure that you don't just walk into an enemy's line of sight or something like that. That's something that you can capture. That also is a lot of fun because every time you do get captured by an enemy, different death sequences initiate. So depending on how you get caught, if you get caught by a guard, or if you get caught by dogs, or if you get caught by the horrible mermaid things that live in the sewers, all that kind of thing, they all have different gory death sequences, and that in itself is a lot of fun, and the game then just transports you back to the nearest checkpoint. While the mechanics themselves aren't dissimilar from Limbo or any puzzle platformer for that mind, you can tell that the polish and the execution of those mechanics has been massively improved. The game is fluid, it flows really well, there's not really any janky moments, everything just runs beautifully, and even when you get stuck on puzzles, it's not too frustrating, because once you get on a good run and you're plowing through the game, so to speak, it makes the entire experience just feel really, really nice. Everyone knows, if you've watched my videos before, that I am not one for puzzle platformers. They bore me to tears, and for a good puzzle platformer to really impress me, it all comes down to the narrative and the atmosphere and the art style. And I have to say that Inside's art style and atmosphere are right on point. It's dark, it's boding. I like the fact that there's no music in the game. It's all just ambient sounds. And, when you're running through a particular, say you're running through a building, all you can hear is your footsteps and maybe the slight glow of a light flickering. And that in itself provides its own musical score, in the sense of that there is no musical score, and it just creates a certain atmosphere to the game, so that when an enemy spots you suddenly and you didn't realize he was there, it makes the whole experience a little bit terrifying in that sense. And that in itself is a really great way to create atmosphere, that mixed with the art style. And again, the art style is fantastic. The way that they've produced a really dark, atmospheric game, the fact that no one has faces makes the whole thing a little bit creepy, and that people wear masks like the upcoming We Happy Few. Again, very creepy, and it's just something that oozes atmosphere, and I really, really like that. In terms of difficulty, the game isn't particularly difficult. There were a couple of puzzles that got me stuck, not because they were too hard, it was mainly due to the fact that they were timed puzzles, and I kept getting the timing wrong, or the sequence of events wrong. For example, there was one in particular where you have to unlock via a button at the bottom of a bit of water. You have to unlock a door that's submerged in water, and then because you have to go under the door, a mermaid chases you and they swim really fast and they will drown you if you catch you. And I didn't realize that you had to hit the button, wait for the door to open, get out of the water, then run away, lure the mermaid away, and then go back and close the door as you were going towards it. And it took me ages to figure that out, and it drove me crazy. But other than that, the difficulty isn't particularly a strong point. I think the puzzles are improved from that of Limbo, but I think that they could have done with just adding a few more in there in terms of variety and complexity. The game won't take you that long to complete, to be fair. It took me 3 hours to complete in total for the first time. The great part is that the game does have multiple endings. Now, speaking of that, let's talk about the story itself. So the game places you in the role of a young boy, basically in a red shirt. The game starts with the boy tumbling down some rocks in a forest, and while running through the forest you encounter masked men with dogs who, it isn't clear if they are trying to capture you specifically or they're just patrolling and they happen to see you. Now, the game crosses several terrain types, from dystopian city streets to farmland to flooded subway systems. The narrative of the game, as is Playdead style, is ambiguous and open to interpretation. Now, like I said, there are 2 possible endings. And as always, I don't really want to give away spoilers, but it is something that I would definitely recommend experiencing. It is a lot of fun, and it left me with thinking, what the hell? What was that? It gave me that kind of reaction to it. And the fact that it got me to have that reaction was something that I really like, because so very few games make me have that reaction, and I like the fact that Inside did. The world Playdead created is very dark, it is very atmospheric, and it does contain many themes. There's, a dystopian civilization there's mind control, genetic experiments, slavery. It's all packed in there in the background in a thematic and literal sense. I have many theories on the actual narrative, and I actually think, after talking with one of my friends who is actually a really big fan of the game, that the 2 endings are actually connected in a certain way, and that it all leads up to an overall story. Overall, Inside is one of those puzzle platformers that's a rare breed. It creates a really nice narrative, it has a really nice atmosphere, and it's a puzzle platformer that I actually can recommend because it's not too tedious. I think that if you are a fan of Limbo, then it's definitely worth picking up Inside straight away. And I think if you just enjoy a good ambiguous narrative with some puzzle platforming elephants and a really good atmosphere, then Inside is well worth picking up. It definitely does get my recommendation, and I think that it's one that will be talked about for quite a while. And that is my review of Inside. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Do like, subscribe, and leave a comment, and I will see you next time.